Welcome to the Stash Cast, where innovation meets real estate. Let's dive in.
I started in multifamily as a kid in college, and then I built a really strong practice in multifamily in Atlanta. And 27 years ago, I started Bull and Realty to have a company name known for integrity. And then we grew. So now we're all throughout the Southeast, and we have teams in every sector. I've been focusing a lot lately. I'm getting up to this in office, and I do a lot of REO and a lot of bank and distress work. And so office buildings around the Southeast U.S. Some people find that office sector interesting. I do have the commercial agent training company that trains agents, and I speak on those things. And of course, the podcast I've been doing for 14 years.
I'm a bit of a fanboy for successful brokers, and I've known you from afar for a long time, and I'm thrilled that you accepted the invite. So thank you. So Michael, I appreciate you being a guest here today. If you could give everybody at home a brief overview of who you are and what you do, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Thanks for having me on, Stash. I'm a commercial real estate broker. I've been doing it all my life since I got out of school. I started selling apartments when I was 19. I grew up in Atlanta, and I started Bull Realty, a commercial brokerage firm, 27 years ago. We have now about 50 people. We do business throughout the Southeast U.S., and we have teams focused on every specialty. I lead a team focused on office buildings and REO, which kind of work well together these days. And we have a multifamily team, industrial, retail, lands, senior housing, hotel, medical, all that. And then I have the show I've been doing for 14 years, America's Commercial Real Estate Show. So I host that. And then I have a training company that trains commercial agents, 21 one-hour videos online. And they're very popular for sales meetings and lunch and learns with companies, most of them in the U.S., but some in other countries as well that speak English. So that's an overview. I sell real estate and help people in our industry.
That's amazing. I was thinking about this morning as I was preparing for my day. Did you ever think about, and then maybe why did you not join a larger shop?
Yes, I've had a really good practice as an agent, and I was being heavily recruited by the national firms selling apartments and apartment complexes. And I was getting really good prices and doing a large volume. The brokers I competed with in Atlanta at the time had really low market share, and they were trickle marketing their listings. They weren't sharing commissions. And in some cases, I felt like my friends at those shops just weren't doing it right. I decided I wanted to start my own company only so I could work for a company known for integrity, number one, and number two, the best disposition marketing in the country. I just really wanted my own identity where I could control that everyone using our name was very high integrity and doing the right thing and treating everyone in a transaction the way they'd want to be treated. Always keep it in mind who our client is. Did it kicking and screaming. I just like doing deals mainly. So it grew almost accidentally, if you will, but that's why, just to be working with a company known for integrity.
Fair. That makes a lot of sense. So I guess, when did you make the decision to transition from multifamily into the office market?
That's a good question. When I started adding brokers and getting more brokers involved, I started getting into other property types and having teams. And I got some really strong multifamily brokers, and I just handed that off to them. And for a while, I just helped all of our brokers. I was just a managing broker, and I helped the hotel team, the industrial team, everyone. And I stayed pretty busy doing that. And then at some point, I just really grew bored with managing and running a business. And we grew enough that I could have really good people to help do that here. And so I said, I'm going to get back on the transaction side. So I decided to do that. In the office, we had a really strong medical office, but we didn't really have a strong, just regular office buildings, investment sales, nor government. I went into office building sales and government leased office building sales because it was an opening. And so that's how I got started.
Interesting. So how do you ensure the integrity of your brand when you're recruiting? Are they mostly new recruits? How does that work?
It's hard. And it's both. So we bring on people that come from other shops. We brought some people on brand new. And to your point you're alluding to, it is almost easier with someone new because they run the plays that I give them. And we've recently had someone start from another firm, and they were a little distrustful of other agents and were doing things the way I wouldn't want it done as a client. So we've had to retool this agent to understand the Bull culture and how we do things. So it is a little more difficult to bring someone in from another shop, but we've had some great success with that as well, that they've come from other shops and done extremely well here. Yeah, we train a tremendous amount, and we just make sure we have a culture that's known for that. It keeps repeating, hey, let's do what's right for the client. Let's do what's right for the client. Let's not just chase commissions or look for the highest fee. Let's do a great job. And then let's treat everyone in the transaction the way we want to be treated. And so you just got to kind of repeat it almost daily.
And I guess that is where the training academy then grew out of.
You're right. That is how it happened. I was developing, there was a lot of training I thought was missing. I know all the great trainers. I have all their stuff. They've all been on my show. They've all been in my office. I've been on stages with them and love them. But there was a lot that I thought was missing, like overcoming objections and negotiation styles. And so I started creating it and improving it year after year. And then I thought one day someone will probably buy my company, Bull Realty, and use it to go national, or buy it just to get me out of the way. And so I thought when that happened, I would just speak at events for a living, which I speak now, and then do training and things like that. And then I realized I was getting older and that if I wanted to be on stage, I shouldn't do it with a cane or a walker. And so if I was going to get my training out there and help people with it, I needed to go ahead and do it. So we did it in front of a live audience with multiple cameras and produced it. Now we have some training we do here that we don't license around the country, but the training we do license is pretty damn awesome. I give Michael secrets in those sessions.
That's awesome. The beauty of being a real estate broker is that you work for yourself, essentially. But the downfall is that nobody tells you what to do. It's a blessing and a curse in and of itself. And you talked about negotiation and overcoming objections. What other things are you helping your new to market brokers or agents focus on in that training program?
There's one of the training programs is on say this, not that. It's called the words of vocabulary of success, and how to use your vocabulary to improve your ratios to help clients. One of the things I've found is from doing $8 billion in sales over 35 years and going through a lot of down cycles is that the creativity to ask the right questions. And there's a lot of ways to figure out deals. If a landlord and tenant want to lease or a buyer and seller are capable of doing a deal, should be a way to work it through if you have the right creative juices and mentality to help them. And then there's one on helping a seller understand the value to them of proper pricing and how to help them understand that, how to illustrate it to them, how to discuss it with them. That's one of the great videos at commercialagentsuccess.com. They're very hands-on and they're not ideas. They're direct how to do it. There's some $1 million responses to objections in there. And so it's that sort of thing.
The Stash Cast is brought to you by Needle. What if you could use data and analytics to predict real estate transactions? With Needle, you can. Check it out at needle.us to learn more.
Fascinating. I think I've been generally lucky enough in my career to have not been in one of those environments or offices where you're generally distrusting of your coworkers or competitors, even if they sit next to you. Why do you, I have two questions. Why do you think there is that and that kind of environment? And the other side is, why did multifamily, it seems like multifamily investment sales is the only product line that doesn't have co-op fees. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn early in my career. I remember somebody told me what they're looking to buy. I sent them a deal and he politely, but firmly said, Stash, I appreciate you sending this, but you don't need to send this to me. I'm already on the list. If you want to do deals with us, you got to go out and find them. And I was like, oh, it's a lot harder than I thought.
Yeah. It's depending on the price range, you find that really in all investment sales, whether it's office, industrial, retail, when you get into the larger price ranges, there's not as much cooperation. And that's one of the things that I like to do differently. I was meeting with a client this morning on a deal that's about 18 million. It's a stable single level office in a really good area. And we're talking about the marketing. And I talked about how we do it. And I said, look, we share fees day one with all the brokers around the country. And he and his son were like, what? Really? Investment sales brokers or large deals, they don't do that. I said, we do. And might we make less money? Yeah. Is it more work? Yes. Does it make it harder? Yes. Are we paid enough that we should do that? Yeah. So I think it's just with the larger investment properties, it's that way. And it's one of the things that we like to try to do differently. And if you're known for that as well, then brokers are more apt to. So maybe after this, maybe you'll look at our listings and know that you can be paid a fee, that we will cooperate with you. And in most of the listings, we're sharing a fee with you. And even if there's not enough fee to share, we'll still cooperate and let you know up front if you have to get a buyer to underwrite it. But I find on the ones that do cooperate are more the user deals, right? The leasing, the owner occupant purchases, that sort of thing. But when you get into the larger investment sales, it's what goes on. And again, I think it can be a mistake for sellers. And we like to try to do it differently.
So I guess then the offshoot of why that culture of race to the copier and get the whatever you printed before the guy next to you did, that came from just commercial real estate's tough. Brokerage is a tough game, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah. So it came from just being guarded amongst secrets, I suppose, or theoretical secrets.
Yeah. I had an agent one time start with us from a big national investment sales oriented brokerage shop. And he actually asked me, where are the shredders? And I said, what do you mean? He said, if you leave your office, you have to shred anything that you printed or agents will come in and try to steal your deal. And not here. No. And to your point earlier to ask how you keep the culture high is I have walked agents out. I've had agents that
Like a perp walk.
I've walked them out. Yeah. I've had a couple that incredible salespeople, but they would sell their own friends or family bad deals. I just didn't really care or try to steal clients from agents. And I was like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want that in our culture. And I let them go.
That's important. We just joined Cushman and Wakefield back in August. We were at Capstone before that, and both firms have been great. But coming to Cushman, I have not had a negative experience at all, and I hope that I don't. We've got
some great folks at Cushman.
I've always looked up to the people in this office as high integrity people, and now as Kevin, our managing principal, you're on the team now, so you're wearing our jersey. Don't make us look bad. Try not to. So I guess talk to me about the office market. I'm in Cincinnati, and I think we lead the nation in office to residential conversion. Are you seeing a lot of that? Is that how you're pitching deals? Just educate me a little bit on your practice there.
Yeah. On the office to residential conversion, that I'm not seeing as much of that as you think that you hear in the press, or maybe as much as you're seeing in Cincinnati, because it needs to be the right building, the right floor plate, the right age building. It needs to be in the right location. Obviously, it needs to be a low basis because it costs so much to build that out. And there needs to be some walkability or some transit, or maybe a mystique about the building that has a reputation. There has to be a lot of things pulled together to convert. So there's not as many conversions as a lot of people would like to see, and they're so costly. And then the municipalities, if they're not helping out with it, then it's tough. Some of them, the cities, the markets, they're understanding that. They want to get people downtown or get these office buildings paying taxes again, and they are helping. And when they do, it can help. But as far as what I think about the office market, I think that it turns around faster than people think. And the reason I think that is one, that some buildings are getting torn down. Some more will get torn down. Some buildings get converted to residential and other uses. Then you'll have the normal demand increase from population and job growth. You'll also have demand increase from a less hybrid, less work from home, especially as companies more and more every month, you read more and more companies, all right, we're making people come back 3 days or 5 days. They're understanding cybersecurity. They're understanding trade secrets, culture, onboarding. at bottom line and top line numbers and retention. I think you're going to have that demand increase. And then another big thing is new supply stops. The starts are just ending. There's going to be some great absorption a lot faster, I think, than people think in a lot of markets. Not every market's the same, right? So I think because of all those reasons, it turns around faster. And I think when we look back at this decade, and possibly when we look back at 2025, we're going to look back and go, wow, we should have all bought office properties because you get in such a low basis. I just brought out a $40 million package that you can get in at almost a 9 cap at 137 a foot. These are great buildings, great areas, and it's 25% of replacement cost with no new supply being built. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that's going to be a good buy. One of the sayings I've seen on social media that I like to help describe this opportunity that we're in at the moment is date the rate, marry the deal.
Right.
So if there's less buyer competition and you can get in at a great basis, we just sold our office building 110,000 square feet at $60 a foot that would cost 800 a foot to build.
Yeah.
Like I would love to have bought it. It was,
Wow.
we do a lot of work for banks and it was one of my clients. I was selling it for the bank. So I obviously can't be involved as a buyer on something that I represent a seller, but there's just some great times to buy office. And then a lot of users buying office, getting in at great basis. We sold a lot of partial users and full users buildings. Wonderful opportunity for them. So I think it turns around faster than we humans think right now.
Huh. The buildings that you're seeing that are being torn down, are those mostly garden style, suburban, where you can repurpose on the footprint of the land?
Yeah, the ones we're seeing, like we do business all over the Southeast mainly. We're headquartered in Atlanta. Yeah, they're on big tracts of land that are close in suburban and good areas, and they're mid-rise. So there's some big, large, fairly tall buildings being torn down, not high-rise, but mid-rise or 4 stories, and they're being torn down and rebuilt with mixed use or multifamily. There's still such a high demand for multifamily in most every market that we're still seeing a lot of that redevelopment.
Yeah. Those are the new covered land plays in some instances, I guess. I sold a shopping center that they tore down and put 360 units on it here in town. And it was just a dead shopping center in a good spot. And I think it's leased up well and it's doing well. That's interesting. So I get the next question is around I guess you were a podcaster before podcasting was cool. I guess how and why did you decide to start it?
Yeah, so I look at brokerage as half marketing. We're marketing our services, we're marketing our listings and assignments, and the other half is consulting. And I love both and doing the consulting side for clients and doing the marketing. So I was approached 15 years ago to do a radio show in Atlanta. At the time, my business was more Atlanta based. And I said, you know what, this would be good marketing. I'll just go on the air on Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock. I'll answer questions from callers. I'll bring my research guy and we will talk about the market. Then they called me about a month before the show started. Said, Michael, we're building new studios. You're going to have to record the show. And I went, oh no, that means I've got to create content in advance. But I went ahead and did it. And my first show was in October of 2010. Think about that timing of their session. My show was on commercial loan workouts. And I had done a tremendous amount of distress work. I knew some great information. I shared it with the audience, and the best in the business that were headquartered in Atlanta. I brought them in. And I remember I didn't tell anyone about the show. I knew I'd be terrible at it. I just didn't know how terrible I'd be. So I didn't tell anyone. And I remember my third step in the parking lot at Salem Media after I did the show. I went, wow, this is incredible information for people all over the country. And I was bad, but I wasn't that bad. And so we started telling people. It ended up growing to 47 stations. I think at once it went to 60 stations. And then we recorded the first one as a podcast, but we recorded as a podcast. And then we started videoing them as well a few years later. And I get calls and Michael, your show information is incredible. It's awesome. But your videos, they suck. They're terrible. I'm like, I know. I'm in a radio studio, tight room,
Right.
harsh lights, a lot of equipment. And So then later we were expanding our office and we built the studio, and that's when we built Studio One, new station type desk and all of that. And with very fine equipment and cameras and lighting and sound. That's how it got started, was a marketing play, and it just grew a lot bigger than I thought.
Wow. Just from being first to market and putting out valuable information.
I think, how did it grow? It grew, first of all, I'd say it grew very slowly. So it was terrible. I was like, I was spending, what was I spending? About 16 hours a week to do my show. It went in the first year or two. And because I didn't want to put out anything that wasn't very high quality. And it took a lot of time. And of course, I was very much a rookie at it, and just getting guests and explaining it. And it was like doing a panel every week. If you've been on stage and moderated and put together a panel, except is we're not only put it together, but then we're recording it, getting it out there. And so it was a lot of work, and it just grew really painfully slow. And I think if I'd have known how slow, I'd have never done it. But then it did get better. It did get better. It got where the biggest folks just really wanted to be on the show. And I did, and if I called someone to be on the show and started explaining it, they'd interrupt me and say, no, I know your show. I absolutely want to be on. So it got to be easier over time, and I got better at it. And so it was just really many years of growth and pain to get where it is.
What, how far in was the tipping point for you?
I don't know if I'm there yet, Stefan. I just put out a $40 million listing today. And one of the guys I was talking to about the portfolio said, wow, Michael, I just got to tell you, I really appreciate your show. He said, when I first got into commercial real estate, I listened to your show every week, and it helped me a lot. And I learned a lot. And I know you don't get a lot of money. You don't get any money for that, and probably not a lot of thanks. When I first started selling office buildings around the country, is I'd call on folks. About half of them knew who I was from the show or from my company, but there was about 10% that were huge fans. They were like, "Oh, I get to talk to Michael Bull. Oh, fantastic!" And I'm like, "Man, I am nobody. I am absolutely nobody. And you own like $1 billion of the office buildings. Thank you." But it's helped some, but it's not to the point that you think, for the amount of work I put in over the years. There's not all this business flowing in like crazy that you'd hope it would do.
Yeah. But I guess you have seen deals, and it is your reputation that precedes you. So it has been additive to your business. Would that be a fair assumption? Yeah.
Sure, it's been beneficial. One of the biggest benefits, I think, is what I've learned. Just what I've learned from, I'll do a show, and I was doing a show today. I was interviewing Ryan Severino, economist for BGO, and he gave some great information. And I realized when he was talking, man, I got to hear this one back, because I that was great information. Now I got to think, when I have more time, how I help my clients with this information. When I'm working out or driving and I come back and listen to them, I get a lot out of them that I can help clients with. So I think that's been the major benefit. I think the second benefit is just the elevated view of the economy and the market that helps me talk to clients. But anyone that listens to my show can have that. I got a call from a guy one day, and he said, "Man, I got to thank you for the show." He said, "I was interviewed this big commercial real estate company. I had did 3 interviews, and they all just were really excited about talking to me and loved me." And he said, "Every question they asked, I just parroted things I've heard on your show." Whatever works.
That's what brokerage is. So I guess I'm curious about the technology aspect of your practice and how it's evolved from when you first started, which were used. I used to work for this guy, Bruce Haynes, out in California. And at one time he was bigger than Marcus Millichap. And then the RTC happened and he pared down. But I used to hear war stories of, yeah, we would go and take photos on regular cameras and then print it out and glue it onto the OM, the offering doc. Were you doing that when you first got started? And then where are you at today with your technology?
Yeah, it was incredible. And when I got in the business, there was no technology. And I remember when I started selling apartments in Atlanta, I actually had to go to tax records and pull information from the tax records downtown. And I drove the entire market. and I took pictures of the buildings and I created my own co-star, if you will. I remember one guy seeing me and asked me what I was doing. And I told him, and he was in commercial real estate. And he said, "You're an idiot. That's not going to help you. It's not going to work." And I became a huge market leader. I had 80% of the market share of in-town multifamily sales. So it did work. And then I ended up getting so many listings. I kept trying to find ways to be creative and use technology. And one of the early ones, if you might be too young to remember, the fax machines were all used. I kept about 30 to 40 listings. And so I had what I called a fax on demand line. So I put out a list of all my listings. I'd have a number and you could call in and enter the number and get a fax back of my listing. And so I was trying to do technology early. And then in 1998 or 9, I remember being on the slow internet. I think it was that year. And I'm like, this is too slow. And then I got a fast internet connection. I went, oh, wow, this is completely awesome. And I created a very informative website for the commercial real estate industry where you could go, you could do framing back then, which meant you could have your site footer and header and give them informational sites and they'd still have you to contact. And I had just great information for commercial real estate at Atlanta, all the sites to find property, to research zoning, just to do everything, to find the right people. And I remember some of my friends at the big shop saying, "Michael, why are you giving so much information to people? Don't you want to hide some of that?" I'm like, they're going to find it anyway. Why shouldn't I be the source?
Yeah.
I started doing that. And then today we're using AI. We're using a lot of technology. We don't have a lot of overhead being a regional firm. It's been the money where it helps my agents and my clients. And we use a lot of technology and we're learning it all the time. And it's just a constant thing that every quarter we're like, what can we do? What can we do to help improve the service for our clients and our brokers? It's changed a lot over the years.
Yeah. I mean, that similar story for myself. Like I've driven or walked the market in certain cases and taken photos. And I used to do essentially a mail merge where I would send a letter with a photo, color photo printed on the envelope in the hopes that they would get me a call back. But I've done that. And I feel like there's a lost art that new to business brokers don't do as much because it's just on the internet. You can pull up pictures of it, of anything, but you miss something when you're not out there driving it. So it's interesting. And then same, like when I first got started, I just pulled down, I didn't have any of the tools that were available. And so I pulled tax records just like you, and I at least had Google at my disposal, but I had to basically figure out who the owners were based on what their mailing address was.
Yeah.
And eventually you get to a point where, oh, this company is at this address. And so I can just assume that's who I'm calling here. And that worked reasonably well. But then as technology advanced and the quality of data, especially in multifamily, and the sophistication of underwriting evolved, where people started looking at it, not just on what's the, it used to be just give me your Schedule E, but now it's okay, give me a T12 and a rent roll, and let's look at it on a T12, 6 and 3 basis. And so it was this is the genesis of how I got eventually to the podcast, but I saw the quality of data improve. And I was like, what if you could use data and analytics to predict real estate transactions? Because I've been using RealHound and it was great because you had a match buyers function. And so I was like, what if you could have that for property owners? With the team, we've created a solution where we're anywhere from 20 to 40% accurate in identifying transactions before they go to market.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I would love that. Michael, I really appreciate your time and being flexible. And if somebody's interested in reaching out to you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Since you might have some multifamily listeners and maybe you'll have a buyer, I'm about to bring out a $90 million beautiful Class A Southeast apartment complex that's got walkability in units that you kind of, when I look at the building, I'm like, wow, I love to live here. If you're interested in that. Yeah. I'm like, unlike some of my friends in the business world, my websites have my contact information. So my commercial brokerage firm is bullrealty.com. My commercial real estate show is CREshow.com. And the training company is commercialagentsuccess.com. And my email and phone number is there. I'm also on LinkedIn. Even on
Somebody
LinkedIn.
had your phone number on LinkedIn.
Yeah. It's like, isn't that ingenious? Right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes and I'm pretty prevalent on social media, and everybody's DM me. You look at their profiles, there's no email, there's no phone number. And so I posted one the other day, said, yeah, DM me at 404-876-1640. And I'm sure some of the young people said, he's an idiot. He's an idiot. That's not DM.
Yeah.
That's the old style DM. My son, when he was little, I got my first iPhone, and he was showing me all the apps, and I'd used it a couple of days, and I came home. He said, Dad, that phone just does everything. Don't you love it? He said, what's the best thing you like about your phone? I said, you know what? I can pick up the phone and push some numbers, and I can talk to someone. He goes, Dad, that really is the best thing about it.
Yeah. We live on the phone.
Yeah. I see sometimes my brokers, and they'll see a deal falling apart, and I'll say, tell me what happened. And finally I get, you know what? Did you try picking up the phone? You got these emails or this communications through technology. Meet with them or pick up the phone. Might work better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's cool. Was it look for loan maturities and change?
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're looking at rental rates, occupancies, loan maturities, how the subject property is doing versus its competitor set. If somebody bought it, say 2 years ago, and they're doing a value add on it, you'll see the rental rates go up, and the occupancy hopefully is at least stable, if not increasing. If it was 85%, if you can get up to 95%. So it's like all these signals are out there, and we pull from a primary data source for the property information that also has loan data is called Cherry. And then we've got web scrapers out there for the rental rates and occupancies, and we're pushing along.
When I first started selling apartments, I was really young, and I started managing them. One of the things I found that some of the older brokers couldn't sell a deal, and I could sell it really quickly. And what I found with the difference was they were concentrating at the time on cap rates. I was concentrating more on what the rents were. And sometimes I'd see the rents and I go, wait a minute, if you do this and this, you can get these rents. And so because I had experience renovating and running apartments as a young guy, that I would tell the buyer that, and he'd say, okay,
All right, go out and do it.
sell it for him.
Deal.
So that experience of knowing how to do that and looking beyond the face of the cap rate was helpful in my young days of starting out.
I wrote an article a couple of years ago, and I just rewrote it. I use ChatGPT pretty heavily. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
But like 3 reasons the cap rate doesn't matter for exactly what you just said. It doesn't tell the full story. It's just a snapshot of today, not what it could be.
I liked this question one time. I was selling a 32-unit apartment building in Midtown. Amazingly, the NOI was negative, and I needed some work, right? And it's in Midtown Atlanta, one of the hottest markets in the country now. And the guy that the group I sold it to did extremely well with it.
That's great. That's a great story.
So it was fun doing apartments and managing, renovating, and selling them. It's a great business.
Yeah. I'm doing a 6-unit heavy gut renovation, but it's fun. I think it makes me a better broker because I really truly understand it from the ground up. Like, where do you get your cabinets from? How much do they cost? What are you doing for flooring?
And you'll have empathy. It's like I started working for a company when I was in college, working during the day, and they bought lipstick apartments. And I learned how to acquire them. I learned how to renovate them and learned how to manage them and lease them. And I learned it from that owner perspective that's in there doing it. So when they quit buying and I got bored and told them, I said, I'm bored here. I need more to do. I got hired by a company to run their management company, and I was about to turn 20. When I came there, they were third-party apartment management, and went in and went, okay, you guys suck. You guys are just terrible at this. I changed every system, everything about everything they did. I tripled the size of the company because I came from that owner work ethic, if you will.
A little bit lazy. Complacent is the better word.
Sometimes I find third-party management, if they're not good, they're only putting out fires, they're only reacting.
And you live and die by your management. I have a bet. I've seen it so many times, especially with out of town owners that come here for the basis and they're like, how can you lose? So they end up losing their ass.
Yeah, I told you about that one we're about to get, and then I think we just got 100 and I think it's 110 units, something like that. It's about a B minus, C plus bank forced sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, about half of them are classic and half
Mhm.
baby. Yeah.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you is, how do you, especially with banks as your clients or larger institutions, build relationships and show that your interests are mutually aligned?
It's hard. Oh,
Okay, good.
yeah. So I've spoke at bank events on maximizing recoveries on non-performing notes in REO. I speak at the Georgia Appraisal Conference. I speak at the Georgia Bankers Association. Spoke at the National Association of Realtors many years in a row. So it's really getting out in front of folks a lot. And then where we first started doing a lot of bank work was in the last recession. And I knew there was going to be some trouble coming. And so I had a full-time agent every second of every day calling every bank. And he was like the Maytag repair guy. So Michael, some of these people, they don't know what special assets means. They don't know. And I said, they will. There's going to be a problem. Now, I'm not saying I was smart enough to know how bad it was going to be. I had no idea it was going to be that bad. I knew it was trouble, though, when you went to cocktail parties and your own sister is talking about owning 3 beach houses that pay multi-millions for that don't come near the rental income covering it. And people talking about flipping contracts and all that. I'm like, all right, we're headed for a problem.
Yeah.
And so I knew, we got an early start. And in early in my career, I've just done a lot of stress work and a lot of bank work. And so I had a resume and experience. And then it was just having somebody constantly every day getting with these folks. And like today, we have a full-time person that calls and emails banks and lenders to have me talk to them and help them with selling notes or selling REO or selling for their borrowers. And it's still tough. We do a newsletter, we do calls, we do emails. I have a hell of a track record. I've got incredible testimonials from banks. Once they use us, they just absolutely love us. That's how we grew nationally and regionally was in the last recession. A bank would use us and they say, oh my gosh, do this in Arizona, do this in Texas, do this in Florida.
Yeah. There's no shortcuts. No secret sauce outside of hard and smart work.
Not really. One of my more recent bank clients that we do a lot of work for, we were full closing on an office building. I wanted that assignment very bad and I wanted that client very bad. It's like the staff turns over from recession to recession or recession to downturn. And so all the old people I dealt with were all gone because they worked themselves out of a job, right? So you got to build relationships again for the next cycle. I was calling them and emailing them so much that I thought any minute they're going to call and cuss me out. And then I ended up calling them again on a Friday afternoon. And I got him on the phone. He said, oh, it's funny you called. We're going to pick a broker Tuesday. I'm like, oh my goodness. I've been calling and emailing and so did my presentation, got it ready for Tuesday. I won it. And then they started using us for everything.
The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Exactly. That's what it's about. And then providing really good marketing.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something when you're interviewing me. It's if you don't mind the extra work and you don't mind in some cases making less money to do better service for your client, then considering going out and cooperating day one with everybody and see if you get more offers and higher offers. Like
So-
right now, you can go on our site right now and you can pull up a $40 million portfolio. That's an incredibly good deal and information's there. And we would pay you to bring a buyer to the table. Not a lot.
Yeah.
User deal, maybe, not an investment.
I always tell other brokers that I'm happy to cooperate, but there's usually not enough.
I think that's one of the reasons, and I didn't get to that when you asked the question about multifamily, but I think that's part of it as well, is that there's so many agents trying to get multifamily listings, the commissions get squashed.
Yeah.
And when they say, oh, Michael, somebody at this shop will do it for 2 or 3%, You're going to have to match that for me to use you. Then all of a sudden you can't cooperate.
Yeah. The juice.
You can cooperate. You just can't pay.
I'm always happy to cooperate. I just don't necessarily have anything baked in for the other side.
And we do co-ops on the buy side as well. And we know how to get a buyer to underwrite our fee and how to sell that advantage to a buyer. And that's one of our training modules actually in commercial agent success is selling off market properties and how to get protected and get it done.
Off market is a slippery, maybe dangerous game because you can spend a ton of time and then especially if you don't have an agreement, you could just get cut out. I've had that happen. And it's heartbreaking. But
oh yeah. And that's why I developed your training to your earlier point. I saw it over and developed best practices from doing it year to year and then started sharing that with my agents and then finally did the training videos. So let me just share this with the world. I'm not going to be here that long. I'll create some competition for myself.
if you're the one teaching it, that means to teach something, you have to become an expert in it. Hopefully you get that.
That's right. You do get a little better at it when you teach it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been out with my agents sometimes and they'll see me on a listing presentation or something and they'll hear the objection. I'll handle it. It'll work. And then we'll leave the meeting and they'll go, oh my God, that was word for word what you have in your training at work, like gold. And I wouldn't have taught you that if I didn't. And I used to, when I was selling apartments, I averaged a listing appointment every day. That's how busy I got. I had 4 assistants.
Incredible.
I mean, so I was like you seen the movie Groundhog Day? I was like Bill Murray. I was doing it so much, I could perfect everything. I could see visually the results and the percentages. So I was able to adjust every word, every timing, everything to get it better all the time. And that's what I put into that training. And people, that training doesn't sell that well. I think in commercial real estate brokerage, I think we get in it 3 or 4 years and we think we know everything and we don't train. And I think that's one of the problems of a lot of people don't have the success levels or they are not successful at all because they don't train enough. And I'm training all the time. I'm constantly training. And I know you are as well. You're doing AI and all of that. That's one of the challenges I think agents face is they think they know it all. I'll laugh when I tell an agent a story about a mistake I made. And I'll say, yeah, I was in the business 4 years. So I, of course, knew everything. And this is what I did.
Yeah. The more you're into it, the deeper in you get, the more you realize how much room there is for improvement.
Yeah. To give you some of the training I've done in recent years, I did stand-up comedy training. I did public speaking training. I did hosting television show training. I did training on training adults. I'm just constantly training because I know I can get better.
I think doing the podcast has helped me be more patient because I used to just count calls and conversations and it was all about volume, but it's not. Volume is important, especially when you're starting off, but it's more about the quality of the conversation that you have when you have somebody on the phone. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Dash.
Thank you.
That's it for the Stashcast. Subscribe, share, and stay ahead in commercial real estate and prop tech. See you next time.